Hello, CFA Nation. Gabe.
And Nick, the drive-by monster.
Oh, man. And we're here today to bring you guys a special CFA segment where we are reacting to just news. All right, guys. This has been, kind of trending on Twitter. My girl Renelle hit me up on it, and it's all over the place. And I don't know one person that doesn't feel strongly one way or another about the COVID situation, especially here in America. My gosh, it's so politicized, it's so polarized. But my Aussies, okay, have canceled their test tour in South Africa, quoting they are quoting COVID concerns. And Nick, I want to get your opinion on it. Not to mention the fact that they did this, canceling this automatically gives New Zealand a free pass, and they're all of a sudden in the championship. I'll let you know I feel about that in a minute. But Nick, my friend, how do you feel about this?
All right, so I'm going to read the official statement first, and then we'll talk. So this is the official statement from Nick Hockley, Cricket Australia interim CEO. Due to the public health situation in South Africa, which includes a second wave and new variant of the virus, and following extensive due diligence with medical experts, it has become clear that traveling from Australia to South Africa at this current time poses an unacceptable level of health and safety risk to our players, support staff, and the community. We acknowledge the significant amount of work by CSA in planning for the tour, during which we made it clear that CA was prepared to take on additional cost and effort to make the series happen. The decision has not been made lightly, and we are extremely disappointed, especially given the importance of continuing international cricket at this time, our valued relationship with CSA, and our aspirations to compete in the inaugural ICC World Test Championship. Blah, blah, blah. The safety of our people is the number one priority. And I say blah, 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 not out of disrespect, but just because I'm not going to read the entire thing. But that's the gist, okay? Because of what they consider to be a COVID situation, another variant of the virus, that they don't feel comfortable with it. Now, this is the thing. It's easy to get upset about this. It really is. And I'm frustrated because I wanted to see some Australia, South Africa. I wanted to see how was Australia going to respond to the loss they had in this last series against India. I want to see some competition with the Test Championship, which I really don't. I want to see India in there. But, it makes it for good this or that. But I also feel that Australia, there's no way Australia took this lightly. Because this is the thing. Like, if I was joking around, if this was a show or episode where we're just messing around and being jest the entire time, tug in cheek, I would be like, oh, yeah, Australia, now you want to back out. Yeah. Now that you got beat, or maybe you got some guys who are completely healthy and they're not able to make. I would love to be able to do that because, I'm a sarcastic and annoying guy at nature. But I don't think it's as easy as all of that. I really don't. I could be wrong. But it's definitely frustrating as a cricket fan to not be able to see this series. I'm sure the South African fan base is not pleased with this whatsoever. I mean, they lost to Pakistan, which is not a bad squad, especially not at home. But I'm sure they were excited to see some Australia come to town. But the last thing I'm going to say, with all that being said, I like the fact that they are putting their players first. Do I think it's a serious threat? I don't know. I think other teams have gone to South Africa recently to play cricket, right? But if you're putting your team first, and if you're saying, listen, we've got to think about the safety of our players and our staff and all this kind of stuff, it had to be a long conversation. It had to be a hard decision to make. And I've got to give credit for citing for those reasons personally. I don't know. I don't know how the rest of the world feels about this, but you got to give them some credit for saying that we're using the safety of this. I would hate to think that that was just an excuse for other reasons. I don't know what those reasons are. Yeah. I would assume that the Australian Cricket Board or whoever's making this decision is, always trying to save the integrity of the game. But it sounds like they're putting the safety of the players first. And unless I know something else, I'm going to take that for face value. What are your thoughts about it?
I'm torn, man. I'll tell you why. Very few people I mean, at least I personally feel if you have not been impacted by COVID personally, then you don't really understand. You know what I mean? It's something on the news story. And I mean, here again, even in America, right? You got 400,000 people dead. But unless you can put a name to that 400,000, you don't feel it. And you're just like, man, I've been out of my house or I've been out of work. You know, it has impacted you financially. But unless you know somebody who has actually passed from COVID, you know, you just don't understand. And personally, in my family, like I said, we've had several people who not my immediate family, but in my extended family who have contracted COVID, and two members who have passed. And we talked about Trayvon's grandfather. At the same time, we're going through a similar thing here in Nevada, where our surrounding states are open for collegiate sports, right, high school sports, but in Nevada they're not letting our kids play, and that matters because the wheel doesn't stop turning. You know what I'm saying, Nick? Like the monster that is the high school pipeline to college, the pros, doesn't stop turning. And you got a lot of kids who've put up, their entire high school career. They might be in their junior or senior year. They need to get these looks, and they're not given an opportunity to play. And it's contributed to some mental health, some mental illness, right? Or health illness, I should say. We've got families that are moving out of town because they want to go somewhere where their kids can play. Just a whole bunch. I say that to say it's not an easy decision to make, okay? So I understand Nick Hockley making this decision. As a fan of Australia, I'm upset about it. Look, I personally and Nick and Trey, we just recently got an email that really kind of like, oh my God, are you serious? And it was frustrating. They ended up canceling winter sports here, which means he lost his baseball, not his baseball season, his football season, right? Done, over with. And it's like, so frustrating. But even for us who we know the danger of COVID, there's a certain, it's like going to the store, man. It's like going to work. You're willing to take a risk as long as you got those mitigating factors, wearing masks, stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't. Here's the thing. Every time we see Australia playing, right? I know they said Australia was one of the lower places in the world that has had COVID, right? So maybe for Australia, it's like, well, wow, I don't know if I'm gonna take my team out there because there's a lot of the numbers are the new variant. There's a lot of numbers, but bro, England had a huge breakout. They were still playing cricket in England. Other teams are still traveling over there. You know what I'm saying? South Africa, South Africa, excuse me. My West Indies went over there. Pakistan traveled to England. England played most of their games at home, and England had a huge problem with COVID for a long time. So I think that because they're athletes, and again, you leave it up to the athletes. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what we were saying with the parents and the players. Leave it up to the players. Listen, we got a tour. If the players want to go, they can go. But if they don't want to go, just like with the IPL, you had players in the IPL that didn't feel comfortable playing and they bowed out. Okay, bow out. But you took away that opportunity from them. So I'm torn, man. But I want to say, and this is just me being, I guess, selfish. I think when you take the decision out of the players' hands, this might be the last test for some of these guys on the Australia team. Who knows? This might be the last time that Tim Payne is captain. This could have been the test that gave a young guy like Philippe his shot. This might have been the one where he came out and you took that away from him. Not to mention, you could have also got your team into that inaugural championship. You know what I'm saying, dude? So from that perspective, while I understand Nick Hockley and I respect his decision, I don't agree with it. You put it on the players, say, look, boys, here's the situation. We haven't dealt with this at home, but, we've got this test. Not to mention you let South Africa hold in the bag because they've already, I'm sure, made a lot of accommodations. They've spent a lot of money to prepare for this test. You know what I'm saying? And now they got no test, no venue, no revenue. You better make that right. I'm just saying, you better make that right. But you leave it up to the players. I guarantee you, Nick, there'll be people who bow out and say, I don't feel comfortable. But those young, hungry guys, I'll go. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you risk your life every day when you step on the field, you get on the plate, whatever. Those players are going to want to go out there and perform because this may be their only shot. Or for some of the older players, this might be their last shot. You know what I'm saying? So I cannot say that I agree with the decision.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't know. We have no inside information. I have no idea. But I can only imagine this was an extremely tough decision to make, especially because you know what kind of backlash you're going to get. You know it. But part of me wonders if the players did have a voice in this, if the players' spouses, their kids, the communities, if maybe certain, not to put it on the wives, but we're talking about the men's Australia team, okay? Maybe some of those wives said, honey, I don't feel comfortable with you going. I don't feel comfortable with you going over there and maybe contracting something or maybe getting the virus and bringing it back. You never know. I have no idea, so I'm just speculating right there. You have no idea if some of the players like, listen, I don't feel comfortable going, but I also don't feel comfortable, telling the whole cricketing world that I'm scared or this or that. And so maybe it's, the CEO say, I'll take it. One thing I do know is Australia loves themselves some cricket. I from what I see, Australia loves cricket, and that country, all this kind of, it'd be really interesting to hear from the fans on this one, from the Australia fans and how they feel about it, because they're right there. This is their team. This is what they've known and grown up with. But I know they love cricket. I know it. And so to make this decision, it had to be a tough decision. I'm sure there's no way it was just like, we'll just cancel it. Not a big deal. But this is my biggest fear right here. This goes beyond the sport of cricket. This is the entire world. This is crazy. We are all dealing with this together, right? It reminds me of Independence Day, where the president gives that awesome speech. And he tells them, he said, listen, never before have we had to come together as nations. We are fighting for our Independence Day. And it's a great speech, but the idea is this. We are all in this together. It's no longer country versus country or your New Year's Day and our New Year's or whatever it is. This is bigger than the game of cricket. But my fear is this. Let me get to my point. As we make decisions to cancel and to not do and to not take the risk, how long are we going to stay in this mode of defensiveness and of protection and of putting things on a hold? And yes, this is a cricket series, okay? It's not the end of the world. But we've already, here in the States, we've already lost an entire year, basically. It'll be an entire year and a month of education. Who knows how many more when maybe something else happens or another part of the virus or whatever comes. I mean, when does it get to the point where as societies or as people, we say enough is enough? We've got to continue on with our life. We've got to continue on with our job. We've got to continue on with, just entertainment for mental stability and whatnot. And it becomes a different conversation. I don't want to take it that far over there, but I do worry about that. Like, when are we always going to be afraid for the next 20 years of something contracting and something an outbreak happening, and we're all in serious trouble if we go to that store or if we go to this sporting event?
You know what, man? I would hope not. I tell you, as a okay, I'm giving away my age here a little bit, but the kid's older than he looks. All right, 40 years old. All right, Nick's younger than I am. It's just the beard, the salt and pepper that makes him look distinguished. All right, but he's a baby. He's a young pup, as I like to call him. All right. I'm already a veteran. Right? I'm already a veteran. But I say that to say, I grew up in New York, and I was actually here in Vegas during 9/11. But to me, that was the moment. That was that surreal moment in a lifetime that I felt like changed America. And here we are, in 2019, 2019, 2020, when it started, and we had something that didn't change America, bro. It changed the world. Like you said, this is a global, and I thought I would never live through something like this where you're making those choices. And, I'm with you at the end of the day, we are as cautious as we can be, but the amount of time, my nephew, funny. When we started this channel, we started talking about how Renee had just got sent home because they canceled the rest of his baseball season when he was just player of the month after being player of the week. I remember I showed his stats and everything on one of our lives or whatnot. The kid was killing NCAA too. Okay, up there with the Minnesota Blue Jays. He's now back in town. He's here in Vegas because baseball season's canceled. They're not playing college ball in his division, and so many kids have lost those opportunities. Now he's, looking to play at CSN one day, open up there, and then transfer to another D2, hopefully next year. But like you said, if this cannot be something that continues to go on because it's really disrupting life. So we got to get a hold of it, and hopefully the vaccine is part of that, But to speak to a broader, not a broader sense, listen, health, supermarket workers at Smith's, where my mother-in-law is a manager. You know what I mean? They never stopped working. You know what I mean? The people at the McDonald's, the people they never stopped working. Walmart was open, cousin. You know what I mean? Those essential things were open, and people were risking their lives. So if you've got the opportunity to represent your country, you know what I mean? You got the opportunity of a lifetime to go out there. Remember, some of these guys may never see that test team again. Some of them, may be their only cup of coffee, as they say, the only call up, or it may be their last test match or whatnot. I can guarantee you that those players wanted to play, Nick. And maybe, like you said, there might have been one or two who didn't. And if that's what happened, and Nick Hockley said, "I'll bite the bullet for all of you," then he's a bigger man than I am. That is, I take my hat off. If that's what happened, then I apologize for my statement. Nick Hockley, I completely agree. Don't let your players take the heat. You take the heat, if that was the sense. But if those players wanted to play and you took that away from them, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, what happens if somebody falls? What happens if somebody falls hills, or even just practicing has an injury, career-ending injury? It happens at practices. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get to see their last test match. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like in South Africa they weren't going to have any what do you call that? Mitigating factors. Like, they were going to have social distancing. They were going to have, their private planes and private jets and hotels rooms. They were going to be in their bubble. They're going to be, masks. So they were going to have those things in place. So, I mean, that's just how I feel about it, man. And we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much more we can talk about. We just don't have all the information. It's definitely a big decision. Unfortunately, in the world of COVID, it's not as shocking as it would have been, right? If there was no other reason for that. But I mean, you make a good point about they've been playing in other places where they've had the bubble. I'm surprised that, they just didn't go with the whole bubble mentality they've done before, where, we're going to go to a place where it's going to be sanitized. We're going to stay in that area. It's not going to be fun, but we're going to get – we don't have all the information. Let us know if you know more about it in the comment section. Let us know what your thoughts are. Are you angry? Are you okay with it? Are you somewhere in between? Is there something that we're missing on this that's beyond that official statement? Let us know. Thanks for checking this out. And one of the big factors or results that comes of this news is New Zealand and what happens with them. If you want to know our opinion, we got that video coming for you right in just a little bit. So wait out for that one. But until that happens, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.
That's 6 runs.